Book Babes, my name is Ainsley and welcome to my library. For today's video, we are going to be talking about all of the series that I'm in the middle of. What? That is huge! So yeah, today we're just going to be yapping about all of those and I am thrilled. I do want to apologize for the lighting. It's about to rain, about to storm, so it is severely overcast today, but let's hop into all my series. Yay! These are in no particular order other than just the way that I grab them off my shelf and stack them up over here. The order is via pickup. I'm going to be intentional about the first books of the video because they are my current read and I'm very excited. And that is the Shepherd King duology. So I read One Dark Window a week ago and I'm a little under halfway in Two to Crowns, the sequel to this one. So far, I've really enjoyed this book. I gave this book a 4.5 series, and I think it's going to be the best book I read of January. So looking pretty good. And obviously this book, the sequel, it is still incredible. This duology was pretty popular this time last year. I feel like it's still popular, but in terms of people reading it, I feel like last year was definitely the time. I saw it featured on so many different book pages, and understandably so. The magic system in these books are extremely unique and I love all the characters, and I feel like this is one of the very few dark romance fantasy books that I've read that romance wasn't the main plot, and I really enjoy that. Hopefully by the time y'all are watching this video, I have finished this book, and so the series is completed. Next up is the Red Rising series. For Christmas back in 2024, I gifted my dad the first 3 books as a daddy-daughter book club kind of thing. The only thing is we're both insanely busy people and we only have managed to read this book. We did go on a trip this past year for Thanksgiving and we listened to the audiobook of book 2. So we're about 50% of the way done with the second book, but we are in the middle of the series. This book I think was either a 4.5 or a 5-star read for me. My dad rated it a 4, I think, but this book was incredible. It took me a while to get really into it, and then once I was in it, I was hooked. I was sold. I just wanted to sit and read this book. And I remember I went to the pool one day and I was like, I'm just gonna read 100 pages and then like do a couple laps. I ended up reading 200 pages and finishing the book in the pool, and everybody that was at the pool with me, they were like, is that book good? Like you just flew through it. And I was like, yeah, this book was actually really good. So this book is incredible, and I will say my dad and I both agree, book 2, we're not the biggest fans of it. I don't know why. Again, I read this one physically and then book 2 or listened to it on audiobook, and maybe that's the killer, but yikes. Next up is the Bone Criers duology. We have Bone Criers Moon and then the sequel, Bone Criers Dawn. These books, I feel like nobody ever really talks about these books. One of my favorite booktubers, she does a lot of like atmospheric reading, and one of the books that she talked about as having really good like gloomy atmosphere was this book, and I picked it up. I think I gave this book a 4-star. I read this back in 2023. But here's the thing. I read it coming up on 3 years ago. I still remember the ending. I am able to jump into this book knowing exactly where we left off because the ending was so good. I don't know why I just haven't read this book yet. But in this duology, we are following a girl who is a bone crier, meaning that it's basically her responsibility to take people from death and get them either to heaven or hell. That's her responsibility. But in order to have that responsibility, she has to do one thing, which is at a full moon on her 16th birthday, she goes out and she is supposed to kill her true love. However, she ends up getting kidnapped, and it's a whole big plot, very big situation. It is so interesting. The betrayal, the forbidden love story, it's so good. I definitely recommend people to read this, and I do want to read this one soon. I'm planning on it. This is actually on my, no, it's not. No, it's okay. I thought it was on my top 26 to 2026 and that would be like super motivating, but it's not. But I do have this on my winter TBR, so I do plan on getting to it. Trust me, I plan on getting to it. This next series might expose what kind of idiot I am. So I have the Shatter Me box set right here, and I have read Shatter Me, Unravel Me, Ignite Me. I never read Restore Me. I thought it was a trilogy, and this was just like a fun little novella or whatever in Aaron Warner's perspective. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll get to it whenever I get to it. Thinking that this was the trilogy, and I read the trilogy and we're good. Then I'm scrolling on Book Talk and someone's like, oh, the 7th book of the Shatter Me series is coming out. And I'm like, the 7th? So I don't know what has been confused to me. I don't know what has been missed in translation. Clearly something, because mentally I'm not doing too well. So I don't know. And also here's the thing, I don't think I want to complete the series because I was very happy with where Ignite Me ended. Is there more to the book, or is this like the selection series where you have the original trilogy and then you have the next trilogy and her daughter's perspective and everybody just clumps it together as one big series? Is that what this is? Because I'm really confused and I don't know. But so the Shatter Me series, I guess, is uncompleted, but to me it's completed. Light Lark series, dun dun dun. I have read Light Lark and Nightbane, and they were actually pretty good. I think both of them got 4 stars. Nightbane might have gotten 3. I don't actually recall. And I am about 60 pages into Sky Shade, and then obviously we have Crown Tide. Also not included because it's a novella, I do have the Grimm and Oro deluxe like novella set. I did buy that at Barnes & Noble's discount sale. I bought that there. So I do plan on reading that soon. I think that falls between these books, so that's why I haven't read it yet. But so I'm going to finish Sky Shade, read the novella, and then read Crown Tide. And then I think the series is over. I will say my excitement for the book is kind of dipping down, and I hate to say that. So I am going to finish the series, and then that might be me. That might be it on the Alex Astor ride for me, and I hate to say that. I know she's coming out with her first like adult fantasy novel. I think that's great, but I read the synopsis and it feels to me like it's just Light Lark fan fiction. I don't know if anybody else got that vibe from it, but I probably won't be reading that series, and I don't know what else she's going to produce, but I'm kind of getting bored of Light Lark, and I feel bad to say because I am literally, if we're including the novella, I'm less than 50% through the series, and I'm already like, okay. But I'm gonna finish. I need to figure out who she picks, if it's Grimm or Oro. Nobody spoil in the comments. I'm forgetting what this duology is called, but we have The Night Ends with Fire and The Dragon Wakes with Thunder. If you guys have not already, go watch my first Read of 2026 video and you will see me vlog my reading experience with this book. Pretty good. 4 stars. I liked it. It's a Mulan retelling, so you know it's going to be good. And I will say the plot almost directly follows the Mulan movie. So it was a pretty easy read because I was just like replaying the movie in my mind, low key. But there is a more complex magic system in this book and a couple different plot twists that you're not really expecting. But I did enjoy this book and I will be finishing this book. It didn't feel like an original reading experience for me. It kind of just felt like, again, I was reading the movie. I definitely plan on reading this book soon because this book ended on such an interesting note and I am curious to see how it ends. And there's also like 2 sides that you're kind of being pulled back and forth between, and I'm excited to see which one we are not necessarily allowed to trust, but like which one is not lying to us. I'm excited for that revelation. The next series on my list is literally Harry Potter. Oh my goodness. And I'm gonna put this down because it's low-key kind of heavy. Here's the 4th book, which is The Goblet of Fire, which is my favorite book. I'm halfway through it. I only read this book series during Christmas because my mom said that Harry Potter for her was like super magical during the Christmas season. So I like only read this book during the month of December, and I did not read any this past year. My bad. And fun fact about me, I read the first 4 Harry Potter series, got bored and stopped, and then took like 3 years later. Then back in 24, I reread books 1 through 3, and now I'm halfway through the 4th book. I've literally never read books 5, 6, or 7, but I have read books 1 through 4 coming up on 2 times, which is so bizarre to me. And I'm trying to break out of this mind block of I can only read this book series in December because it's going to take me so long to get through it. Next, we have the Letters of Enchantment series, which is Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, book 1, book 2. I'm very excited to read this book. I have read this one and I rated it 5 stars. This was one of the very few books that I stayed up so late into the night reading because I had to finish it. I stay up late reading all the time, but it's by choice. This one, I was completely locked in. I had no option but to read and finish the book. I was stuck inside these pages and I'm not complaining. It was phenomenal. So I don't know why it's taken me about 3 years to pick this book up. My only hang up is I've heard so many people give the first book 5 stars and then strongly dislike this book. And I'm a little worried that if I go into this book and not like it, it's going to cloud my love for Divine Rivals. So we'll see. This next book series is huge. And that, I can't even lift it up. And that is the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. This is another daddy-daughter book club that I did with my dad, except he's finished the whole series and I've only read books 1 and 2. My dad's a big James Patterson fan, and I went to Barnes & Noble one time, like 5 years ago, and I walked in and on the James Patterson table was this book, Skyward, and I just saw James Patterson. This one looked interesting, read the synopsis. It sounded really, really good. So I took it home and I read it. And I love this book. I bought it for my dad because I thought it was James Patterson. It was on the table, but I don't understand. I read this book, gave it 5 stars. It was incredible. I am not a big fan of sci-fi. I say that literally the only sci-fi books I've read is Skyward and Red Rising. That's it. I really don't branch out into that genre because I don't necessarily like it. I read Starsight and I genuinely wasn't that big a fan of it. My dad told me that since he's read books 3 and 4, that Starsight set up so much for the next 2 books. My dad was basically saying that books 3 and 4 could not have been as good as they were if it wasn't for Starsight setting it all up. So this was definitely like, I don't want to say a filler book because it was needed, but it was just one of those books that like you just have to get through for the rest of the series. Here we are, but I definitely want to get to these books very, very soon because my dad said that these reminded him so much of the first book and I want that. The last series I am in the middle of, I don't think anybody's heard of this because I never see it anywhere, ever. I quite literally never see this book series anywhere and it makes me so sad. And that is The Bells. So we have obviously book 1 called The Bells, and then we have book 2 at The Everlasting Rose. This is actually a trilogy. I don't have book 3 because I haven't read it, and I have book 2. I only got halfway through it. They released book 3. It has a completely new cover and I'm just like, ugh, why do they do this? Why do they hate us? Which, mind you, I'm not the biggest fan of this cover or this cover. Like who is this girl? I like the spines. In this book series, we are following Camilla, and she is a belle, and a belle is basically responsible for keeping people beautiful. She controls all beauty. That's like her power. She's a fairy, and there's a tradition at the royal castle in the royal court that they pick a favorite of the belles, and that favorite basically just becomes a primary aid for like the queen or the princess or the king or whoever on the royal court that needs beautifying. So Camilla enters into this competition and she's like, yeah, I want to be a favorite. This is my dream. This is what I'm going for. And we basically just follow her competing against all these other belles for the top spot. This was like my best book of like 2017. That's all my series. I feel like I've done pretty well in terms of not going overboard on series and then not finishing them. I feel like this is a pretty good number, especially considering I do have immediate goals of finishing The Shepherd King, The Night Ends with Fire, Bone Crier's Dawn, and Ruthless Vows. Gosh, I have been calling that book Violent Lies for years, and it is Ruthless Vows. Typically when I start a series, I read the series the whole way through unless something gets in the way of that. Well, I'm gonna go get to reading and hopefully check some of these series off in 2026. But this was a really fun video to film. It was definitely eye-opening and it reminded me of some books that I want to prioritize pretty soon because I want to remember how the story ends. I feel like once I finish a book, I just put it on my shelf in my library and not necessarily forget about it, but it's definitely not right in front of my eyes anymore. So this was a really good way to remind myself of the book journeys I've been on and still need to complete. So I'm definitely excited for that. Comment down below some of the series that you're in the middle of or maybe some of the series that you're going to prioritize in 2026. And I will see you guys next Monday with a reading vlog. Bye guys.